Edwards moment. I was like, good evening. All right, or morning, whatever time it is for you. It's evening for me. It has been a long day at school, and I am tired. So if I'm a little loopy, you're just gonna have to deal with it. If you hear my cat, that's my cat. She's very loud. If you hear my children, they're my children. They're very loud. This lesson is solving absolute value. And I'm actually gonna do several because it's not a long process. We're gonna solve absolute value with equals, and we're gonna solve absolute value with inequality, and we're gonna talk about the difference, and we're gonna talk about what absolute value has you do. So this will be solving absolute value. And I'm gonna do both inequalities and equations. So equations, I'm gonna start with, pick a number, Paul Sittig.
5.
I don't know if this will come out whole numbers, but if you get a fraction, you're going to be fine. So get over it. Now, the first step to solving an absolute value, if possible, is get the absolute value alone on its side. If you have an absolute value on both sides for some reason, this will not work. But for my classes, we're not at a level of that. So at this point, right now, you want to solve this. But you can't deal with the absolute value until you deal with this number hanging around outside the absolute value. So this 5 in front is not adding because there's no plus sign. It is not subtracting because there's no minus sign. It is not dividing because there's no division symbol. It is multiplying. So to get rid of it, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Okay. Now it's a really basic, like this is an Algebra 1 first semester early on equation. That doesn't mean you have to be good at it, but it went from looking much more horrifying to looking much less horrifying fairly quickly. I draw the dotted line. If you're my student, you know this. If you're just some random person watching this on YouTube for fun, I don't know. I draw the dotted line because I want to remind people that you have balance, and anything you do to the left side, you do to the right. And this is a very visual, like, demarcation of the two sides. Now, in absolute value, though, we have to think about, first of all, is there an answer? Is this possible? You ask yourself all the time. What I mean by that is absolute value means distance. So what you want to think about is, can I have a distance equal to 5? Can you stand up and walk 5 steps right now? Maybe, wherever you are. But I could. Well, it'd be a little crumpy, but I could totally walk 5 steps if I needed to. So this is a possible equation. If this said equal to -5, we would have an issue because you cannot get up and walk -5 steps. You could walk 5 steps backwards, but backwards is a direction. All right? Negative is not a distance, right? We talked about it in my class. Ferris Bueller, right? When he tries to run the car backwards, it doesn't work. Smoke signals, when the girl drives her car backwards, she still gains mileage on her car because driving backwards is not distance. It's a direction, okay? So this is possible, okay? If you have absolute value equal to a negative, that is not possible. So you would say no solution. Now, I have 2 answers to an absolute value problem based on distance. So think about a number line. Here is 0. I can walk this way 5 steps and get to a number that is 5 away from 0. I can also walk this way and get to a number that is 5 steps away from 0. Positive 5 is 5 away from 0, and negative 5 is 5 away from 0. So absolute value has 2 answers because the absolute value of 5 is 5, and the absolute value of -5 is also 5. Okay, so when I have this step, I now break it down. Break it up. Break it something. Break it up. So I'm going to break this up. I have 2x minus 4 equals 5, and I have 2x minus 4 equals -5. And now I solve. Okay, always start with your addition subtraction. It's backwards PEMDAS. I get 2x equals 9. I divide by 2. I'm a fraction person, so I would leave it like that, but I know most people aren't. So go ahead and decimal it. My problem is when I plug it back in to check it, I don't like decimals. I just don't like decimals, and whatever. We can fight about it if you want. I don't care. All right, now I'm going to do the same steps, but I'm going to get a slightly different answer because this is a -5. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Divide by 2, x equals negative. I would leave it as a fraction, but I'm going to put it as a decimal so as not to offend. Okay, now I would say check these because these can have what are called extraneous solutions. And an extraneous solution, don't trip me, an extraneous solution is when you solve completely good, like you're super awesome, you did it totally right, and then because the problem's a weird beard, when you plug it back in, it doesn't work, okay? So I also like to do this because I also like to show students why there are two answers. All right, so the way you check is you just plug back in, but you're saying, are these things equal? I don't know. All right, 2 times 4.5 is 9. Now I'm going to ignore the right-hand side. I'm just going to work the left-hand side to make sure it equals 25. 9 minus 4 is 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. So that one worked perfectly. So I'm a genius. All right? Now I'm going to try negative 0.5. That's the other reason I hate decimals is because I can never write them correctly. I'm still checking, so I'm saying, is this equal to 25? All right. Twice negative half, or negative 0.5 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Ha-ha! I told you that this is distance, so when you absolute value a negative, it goes positive. So this is really positive 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, so we're the smartest people we've ever met. Because this number will give me the negative 5, but absolute value goes positive, and this number will give me the positive 5, I have two answers that make 25. Okay, so solving absolute value, get the absolute value by itself, make sure it's possible, and then split it. Now, inequalities are very, very similar. In fact, let's get sassy and let's do this as an inequality just so you can see how similar they are. 2x minus 4. I'm going to do this two ways. Just because I want you to think about this. Is that what I want? I want that. Okay. I just wanted to do this because I want you to think about possible, whether these are possible or not. Same first step. I got to get the absolute value alone. Now, there's an alligator involved. Inequalities. Less than, greater than. They don't like when you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative. I'm not. So that's not going to change sign, and it's not going to make the alligator flip. Can I go a distance less than negative 5? What numbers are less than negative 5? Numbers that way. Can I go negative distance? I cannot! And you cannot either. I hope you didn't have your earbuds in because you are now deaf, maybe. You'll be fine. So this one is not possible because I can't have a distance less than a negative. Now, if it were over here negative, this one, weirdly, is possible because I can have a distance that's greater than negative. Okay? So, let's just go ahead and turn this into less than 25. And I just want you to see how similar it is to what we just did. Okay? Got to get my absolute value alone. Now I'm going to split it, and here's the difference. This is the one major difference. I have 2x minus 4 has to be less than 5, but then I get 2x minus 4 has to be greater than negative 5. So the only difference between this and equals is when you split it and you go to the opposite, the negative sign, you have to change the inequality because you can't be less than a negative, so you have to be greater than a negative. Then it's same answer, except with a less than. Same answer with a greater than. If they ask you to graph this, which they might, you know, just that person that likes you to graph stuff. I'm bad about writing this, and I have to admit it's just because it's one of those teacher things that I'm like, I don't remember until the end. This says my answers are less than 9/2, which is 4.5. It's going to be an open. Less than is this way. This one says my answers are going to be greater than -1/2. That's this way. Because they head towards each other, I know it's going to be an and. Also, less than generally indicates an and greater than generally indicates an or. So what that means is, when it's a less than to start, it means they're going to head towards each other. And when it's a greater than to start, they're usually going to head away from each other. Okay, so I did that one faster, but the reason I did it faster is because once you see it as equals, it's not really, the only difference is this part right here. And then usually with the inequality, they want you to graph it. And it's an open dot, you know that. And then they head towards each other in this case because x is less than 4.5 and it's greater than 1/2. I hope that made sense. It has been a really long day and long week. Same thing. All right, if you have a comment, if you have a question, if there's something else that I need to clarify or a different form you want to see, then you need to comment below. If you are interested in subscribing, you can subscribe to my videos, you can like my videos, you can comment on my videos, you can, I don't know, maybe someday I'll go live. The children told me I can go live. Maybe someday, right? Maybe second semester. All right. This is Siddig. I am tired. For those of you that are watching this Wednesday, I'll see you tomorrow for your final. Don't forget, if you have specific questions, write to me and ask me. And if you're just randomly watching this and you have not a final with me tomorrow, then I hope you have a lovely day, a lovely evening. And I'll talk to you later.